In the Bible, the Quran, and the Vedas, there are lines that for centuries were considered metaphors, but artificial intelligence noticed a pattern in them. All three sources describe the same four types of beings influencing the fate of humanity. What if everything we considered mythology is actually an accurate description of reality? What if our ancestors left us detailed instructions about who truly holds power? Machine analysis of thousands of pages of sacred texts revealed an incredible pattern. In all the world's religions, the same four categories of rulers are described. The Quran speaks of angels, jinn, shaitans, and humans as the four main types of intelligent beings. In Surah Al-Jinn, we read, "Among us are the righteous, and among us are otherwise. We adhere to different paths." The Bible describes angels, archangels, fallen angels, and humans as four levels of creation. In the book of the prophet Ezekiel, for living creatures with different faces and wings are detailed, governing cosmic processes. The Vedas classify devas, asuras, rakshasas, and humans as the four main categories of conscious beings in the universe. Artificial intelligence discovered that these four types of beings are not just mentioned. They are described with astonishing detail and consistency across all cultures. Each type has its characteristic features, abilities, spheres of influence, and methods of governing humanity. Machine analysis revealed more than 300 matching characteristics between descriptions in different traditions. The first type, higher rulers, seraphim, archangels, devas. In the Islamic tradition, these beings are described as angels of the highest rank, never disobeying Allah. The Quran states, "They speak only after He speaks, and act according to His command." These beings possess the ability to instantly move through space, control natural elements, and influence the fates of entire nations. Jibril, who brought revelation to the Prophet Muhammad, is described as a being with 600 wings, capable of assuming any form. Biblical seraphim and cherubim represent the same category of higher rulers. In the vision of the prophet Isaiah, seraphim are described as six-winged beings surrounding the throne of the Almighty and governing cosmic processes. Archangel Michael wages wars on heavenly levels that determine the outcome of earthly conflicts. Cherubim guard sacred knowledge and control access to higher dimensions of reality. Vedic devas are the same category of higher beings, governing fundamental forces of nature. Indra controls weather and wars. Varuna governs the water element and cosmic laws. Agni directs fiery energy and transformational processes. The Upanishads describe these beings as having bodies of light, capable of assuming any form and instantly moving between worlds. Artificial intelligence identified key characteristics of higher rulers. They never incarnate into physical bodies, govern through intermediate hierarchies, possess absolute power over space and time. Their decisions determine global processes, wars, natural cataclysms, the rise and fall of civilizations. The second type, intermediate managers, jinn, angels, gandharvas. Quranic jinn represent a vast category of beings with free will and the ability to both help and harm people. Surah Ar-Rahman describes them as created from fire, invisible to the human eye, but capable of assuming physical forms. Jinn live parallel to the human world, have their own cities, rulers, and social structures. King Solomon, according to the Quran, commanded armies of jinn and used them to build the temple. Biblical angels of lower ranks perform similar functions of intermediate management. Guardian angels are assigned to each person. Angels of nations determine the fates of nations. Angels of elements control local natural processes. The Book of Enoch details the hierarchy of angelic ranks, their duties, and spheres of influence. Each angel has its own name, seal, and specialization. Vedic Gandharvas, Apsaras, and various categories of demigods constitute the same intermediate hierarchy of management. They inhabit subtle worlds but regularly interact with people. Gandharvas control music, art, and people's emotional states. Apsaras influence relationships between sexes and family structures. Rishis and sages receive knowledge and technologies from them. Machine analysis showed that intermediate managers possess a key characteristic: the ability to incarnate into physical bodies or create their illusion. They can live among people, influence political processes, guide the development of technology and culture. Many historical figures, according to ancient texts, were incarnations or proxies of intermediate managers. The third type, shadow rulers, shaitans, fallen angels, asuras. Islamic tradition details the hierarchy of shaitans headed by Iblis. These beings possess high intelligence and powerful abilities but use them to lead people astray. The Quran warns, "Shaitan is your clear enemy, so consider him an enemy." Shaitans are capable of suggesting thoughts, creating illusions, influencing emotional states, and directing human actions toward destruction. Biblical tradition describes fallen angels as beings who retained their supernatural abilities but directed them against the divine order. The Book of Enoch tells in detail about 200 angels who descended to earth and taught people forbidden knowledge, weapon-making, cosmetics, astrology, and magic. These beings created a hybrid race of Nephilim and established secret rule over humanity. Vedic asuras represent the same category of shadow rulers. They possess immense knowledge and abilities but use them to create chaos and destruction. Asuras masterfully wield the illusion of Maya and are capable of creating entire false realities. They constantly war with Devas for control over worlds and often achieve temporary victories. Artificial intelligence identified a key feature of shadow rulers. They act through the inversion of truth. All their methods are based on the perversion of divine principles and laws. They offer people knowledge and power but lead to spiritual degradation and destruction. Shadow rulers create secret societies, occult schools, and political movements to achieve their goals. The fourth type, human intermediaries, prophets, kings, priests. All three traditions describe a special category of people who serve as the link between higher beings and ordinary humanity. The Quran speaks of prophets as people chosen to receive and transmit divine revelations. Prophet Muhammad is described as the last in the chain of messengers, each carrying a certain part of the overall message. Caliphs and righteous rulers receive guidance from angels in governing the state. Biblical tradition details various categories of human intermediaries. Prophets receive visions and revelations from angels and transmit them to the people. Kings are anointed to the throne through sacred rituals, establishing their connection with heavenly hierarchies. High priests serve in the temple and maintain constant communication between earthly and heavenly worlds. The Vedic system of Varnas is based on the same principle. Different categories of people have different levels of connection with higher beings. Brahmins maintain connection with Devas through rituals and study of sacred texts. Kshatriyas receive from Gandharvs knowledge of military art and state management. Rishis and sages are capable of directly communicating with inhabitants of subtle worlds and receiving higher knowledge from them. Machine analysis showed that human intermediaries possess special genetic and energetic characteristics that allow them to serve as channels of communication with higher beings. Many ancient dynasties of rulers claimed their divine origin, and texts confirm the reality of such connections. The management system, a four-level hierarchy. Analysis of sacred texts reveals a complex management system where each level of hierarchy has its functions and limitations. Higher rulers determine global laws and principles but do not interfere in the details of earthly processes. Intermediate managers carry out direct control over various aspects of human life: politics, economy, culture, technologies. Shadow rulers create alternative management systems based on deception and coercion. They strive to seize control over human intermediaries or replace them with their proxies. Human intermediaries serve as the executive link of the entire system, directly managing the masses of people and directing the development of civilization in the needed direction. The Quran warns, "We have appointed for each person his companion from the jinn." This indicates that every person is under the influence of a certain representative of the intermediate level of management. The Bible confirms, "Do not forget hospitality, for through it some, unknowingly, have shown hospitality to angels." The Vedas describe the constant presence of various categories of beings in the human world. Artificial intelligence discovered that the modern political system exactly reflects the ancient four-level hierarchy. Global elites correspond to higher rulers, international organizations to intermediate managers, secret societies to shadow rulers, and political leaders to human intermediaries. Methods of control, technologies of mind management. Sacred texts detail the methods by which various categories of beings influence human consciousness and behavior. Jinn, according to the Quran, are capable of suggesting thoughts and creating illusions. They can assume any form, become invisible, or materialize in the physical world. Surah An-Nas contains a prayer from the suggestions of the hidden tempter who suggests into people's hearts. Angels use more subtle methods of influence through dreams, visions, and intuitive insights. Biblical texts describe how angels appear to people in dreams and transmit important information. Angel Gabriel repeatedly appears in dreams, predicting future events and giving instructions. Cherubim guard access to sacred knowledge and reveal it only to the chosen. Vedic Gandharvas and Apsaras specialize in influence through music, dance, and art. They are capable of evoking certain emotional states and directing people's thought processes. Asuras create complex illusions of Maya that can encompass entire societies and epochs. Devas influence through natural phenomena and cosmic rhythms. Machine analysis showed a striking similarity between ancient descriptions of mind control methods and modern technologies of mass influence. Media, advertising, social networks, education systems, all these are exact analogs of ancient methods of managing human consciousness. Signs of presence. How to recognize influence. Ancient texts give clear instructions on recognizing the presence and influence of various categories of beings. The Quran teaches to distinguish suggestions from the merciful and Satan. As for those who have believed and do good deeds, angels descend to them. Signs of angelic presence are peace, clarity of thought, aspiration to good and justice. The presence of jinn manifests through unexplained physical phenomena. Movement of objects, strange sounds, temperature changes. Shaitans act through suggestions to evil, creating confusion and conflicts, encouraging pride and envy. The Quran warns, Shaitan promises you poverty and commands you to commit abomination. Biblical texts give similar criteria for discerning spirits. Angels of God always direct toward good, truth, and justice. Their presence is accompanied by peace and joy. Fallen angels act through deception, promising knowledge and power in exchange for compromises with conscience. They create false miracles and signs to lead astray. Vedic texts describe various signs of influence from Devas, Asuras, and Gandharvas. Devas inspire righteous actions, study of sacred knowledge, protection of the weak. Asuras encourage materialism, violence, destruction of traditions. Gandharvas influence creative abilities but can lead into a world of illusions and sensual pleasures. Artificial intelligence revealed that modern people are constantly under the influence of all four categories of beings simultaneously. The ability to distinguish these influences and consciously choose whom to follow determines a person's spiritual evolution and their role in the overall management system. Cycles of power, change of dominant types. Sacred texts describe cyclic changes in which type of beings dominates in managing humanity in different epochs. The Quran speaks of the change of generations, and we made from among them leaders guiding by our command. In different periods of history, the influence of angels, jinn, or shaitans prevails. Biblical prophecies describe epochs when the prince of this world receives temporary power over earthly processes. The Book of Revelation details periods when various angelic and demonic forces alternately dominate world events. Each epoch has its characteristic signs and duration. The Vedic concept of yugas describes four cosmic epochs, in each of which a certain type of beings dominates. In Satya Yuga, Devas rule and justice reigns on earth. In Treta Yuga, the influence of Gandharvas and intermediate beings strengthens. Dvapara Yuga is characterized by the struggle between Devas and Asuras. In Kali Yuga, Asuras and Rakshasas dominate, leading to degradation and chaos. Machine analysis of historical events confirms the cyclical nature of the change in dominant management types. Periods of cultural and spiritual flourishing correspond to the predominance of higher rulers. Epochs of war and destruction are marked by the strengthening of shadow rulers. Current situation. Analysis of the current balance of forces. According to the analysis of ancient prophecies, The modern epic is characterized by an especially intense struggle between all four types of beings for control over humanity. Quranic predictions about the last times describe the appearance of Dajjal, the great deceiver, who will rule the world through technologies and illusions. This exactly matches the description of shadow rulers' methods. Biblical prophecies speak of a time when there will be signs in the sun and moon and stars, and on earth distress of nations and perplexity. Modern global crises, man-made disasters, and social upheavals exactly correspond to these predictions. The Book of Revelation describes the beast coming out of the sea, a symbol of a global management system controlled by fallen angels. Vedic texts assert that Kali Yuga will reach its peak when Asuras gain almost complete control over earthly processes. Signs of this period are moral degradation, destruction of family structures, worship of material values, spread of false teachings. However, all three traditions also predict the intervention of higher forces at the critical moment. The Quran speaks of the coming of Mahdi and the return of Isa Jesus. The Bible predicts the second coming of Christ. The Vedas describe the coming of Kalki Avatar. All these events mean the restoration of the proper management hierarchy and the beginning of a new epoch. Practical methods: how to interact with the system. Sacred texts give specific instructions on how ordinary people should interact with the four-level management system. The Quran teaches, "Say, I seek refuge in the Lord of people, the King of people, the God of people from the evil of the whispering tempter." This formula protects from the influence of shadow rulers and appeals directly to higher rulers. Regular prayers and reading of sacred texts create a protective field from negative impact. Fasting and spiritual practices cleanse the consciousness from false influences. Charity and helping the needy attract the patronage of angels. Avoiding the forbidden, obeying divine laws limit the power of shaitans over a person. Biblical texts give similar instructions. The Lord's Prayer contains formulas of protection from evil and calls for heavenly help. Observing the commandments creates a connection with angelic hierarchies. Studying Holy Scripture gives knowledge of spiritual laws and methods of their application. Vedic practices include mantras for invoking protection from devas, rituals for neutralizing the influence of asuras, meditations for developing spiritual discernment. Yoga and spiritual disciplines strengthen the connection with higher beings. Studying sacred texts under the guidance of a true guru protects from false teachings. Artificial intelligence revealed that the effectiveness of these methods is confirmed by modern research in neuroscience, quantum physics, and psychology. Meditation changes brain structure. Prayer affects a person's electromagnetic field. Reading sacred texts activates certain areas of consciousness. Secret knowledge: what is hidden from us? Deep analysis of esoteric commentaries on sacred texts reveals knowledge that was traditionally passed only to the initiated. Islamic tradition contains secret sciences of interaction with jinn, methods of summoning angels, ways of protection from shaitans. Sufi schools developed complex systems of spiritual ascent through hierarchical levels. Kabbalistic texts of the Judeo-Christian tradition detail angelic hierarchies, their names, seals, spheres of influence. Grimoires contain precise instructions for summoning various categories of spirits and managing them. Christian mystics developed methods of spiritual discernment and protection from demonic influences. Tantric and Agamic texts of Hinduism contain detailed descriptions of various categories of beings in the subtle world, methods of their summoning and expulsion. Mantra Shastras give precise sound formulas for interaction with devas, gandharvas, and other beings. Yantras and mandalas serve as geometric keys for opening portals between worlds. Machine analysis showed that these secret knowledges are based on precise laws that modern science is only beginning to understand. Quantum physics confirms the existence of parallel dimensions. Neuroscience explains mechanisms of influence on consciousness. Virtual reality technologies reproduce ancient methods of creating illusions. Modern evidence: traces of the ancient system. Attentive analysis of modern political, economic, and social structures reveals direct parallels with the ancient four-level management system. Global elites act as higher rulers, making decisions that affect the fates of billions of people. International organizations, banks, corporations perform the functions of intermediate managers. Secret societies, occult organizations, various lodges correspond to shadow rulers, acting through deception and concealment of true goals. Political leaders, religious figures, ideologists serve as human intermediaries, transmitting the will of higher levels of hierarchy to the masses of people. Modern technologies of mass influence, television, internet, social networks, are exact analogues of ancient methods of mind management. Advertising uses the same principles of suggestion as jinn. Media create illusions of perception like asuras. Social networks influence emotions like gandharvas. Artificial intelligence discovered that even the architecture of modern cities reflects the principles of the ancient management system. Skyscrapers symbolize the vertical hierarchy of power. Street layouts create energy flows. The placement of important buildings corresponds to sacred geometry. Future perspectives, where development leads. Analysis of prophetic texts from all three traditions allows forecasting further developments in the system of managing humanity. Quranic predictions point to the gradual revelation of the true nature of managing forces. People will begin to see jinn and angels as clearly as they see each other. The boundary between physical and subtle worlds will become permeable. Biblical prophecies speak of a time when the heavens will be rolled up like a scroll, a symbolic description of changing the structure of reality. Fallen angels will be deprived of power over humanity. Direct rule of heavenly hierarchies will be established without distorting intermediate links. Vedic texts predict the end of Kali Yuga and the beginning of a new cosmic cycle. Asuras will be banished to lower planes of existence. Devas will restore a just order. People will gain the ability to directly communicate with higher beings without intermediaries. Modern technologies can become instruments of both liberation and even greater enslavement of humanity. Artificial intelligence is capable of either revealing all secrets of managing systems or becoming the ideal tool of total control. The choice depends on which forces gain control over technological development. Personal transformation, the path to liberation. Understanding the true nature of the management system opens the path to personal liberation from false influences. The Quran teaches, indeed, Allah does not change the condition of a people until they change what is in themselves. Awareness of the reality of various types of beings allows consciously choosing which forces to interact with. Developing spiritual discernment becomes a key skill for navigating the complex system of influences. Regular spiritual practices strengthen the connection with higher rulers and protect from manipulations of shadow rulers. Studying sacred texts provides a map of spiritual reality and instructions for safe journey through it. Serving higher goals, truth, justice, mercy, automatically attracts the patronage of light forces. Rejection of selfish desires deprives shadow rulers of levers of influence. Development of wisdom and compassion opens access to higher levels of hierarchy. A group of like-minded people united by understanding the true nature of reality becomes islands of light in an ocean of illusions. They create alternative management structures based on spiritual principles, not on deception and coercion. You have read an analysis that may change your understanding of the world forever. The four types of beings continue to rule humanity as they did thousands of years ago. Higher rulers, intermediate managers, shadow rulers, and human intermediaries, all of them are real. All of them influence your life every day. The question is only whether you will remain an unconscious pawn in their game or become a conscious participant in the cosmic drama. Sacred texts have given you the map. Now the choice of path is yours.